Okay, so today we'll talk about Amazon Web Services specific to the Hadoop based offering, and that's where you have the Elastic MapReduce feature of Amazon coming into picture. So that's one framework which Amazon provides to do your Hadoop related development in a cloud based manner. So if you don't want to spend time and energy setting up the cluster and going for that low level type of implementation, in the sense wherein you are taking care of all the complexities of hardware management, monitoring, and all that job, you might as well just would like to use this Amazon MapReduce capability and leverage the same. So let's try to evaluate some of its component. Amazon Web Services model is a very broad architecture. There are a lot of components that are available. We'll see some small components which are used as part of the Amazon Elastic MapReduce capability and all. So in its core, your Amazon Elastic MapReduce is a cloud-based offering which gives users the ability to get the hardware as well as all the monitoring and the capacity that they need at individual virtual machine levels and all. So you can get storage, hardware, and other low-level configurations. So basically it's a hardware as well as a software as a service type of a model, cloud architecture. And MapReduce, Elastic MapReduce in turn is basically a infrastructure whereas Hadoop is already installed, and it's something which is managed by the Amazon cloud itself. The capacity, you just have to request, as you will see, the number of instances that you want running, and in that sense it will be simply able to give you that number of details and all. So don't have to go through the hassle of individually configuring each and every server, installing Hadoop on each of the member cluster. All those low level things will not be a hurdle there when you use the distributed or this cloud offering from Amazon. Yep, in its core, at least the Elastic MapReduce level, you'll see that you will have web services to you'll have individual web services for Hadoop which is installed at that particular level. So as we said, that Amazon Web Service is a set of offerings for different purpose. You get storage, database, monitoring, hardware capacity, all those things are there. It's a good thing to evaluate. Elastic MapReduce is specific to cloud-based offering, wherein you can just request a cloud-based model and all that particular thing. So that way it will be something which will be helpful to you. You can see that you might want to check what's the latest version that you have, but you will have Hive, Pig, HBase, all of this is offered there. It's just that the only difference is that instead of you hosting, Amazon folks have hosted that thing. Amazon calls it storage part, which in deals here itself. So the storage is where your EC2 comes into picture. EC2 and all is the EC2 is something which will be the hardware part. So Amazon S3, which is simple storage service, is what will configure or help you to push the data into it. All initial configuration, the type of bootstrapping and all that you want to do, the types of software that you want them running is all taken from user as an input, and accordingly you'll be seeing the configuration done. So it's, as we said, that Amazon Elastic MapReduce is a cloud offering. If you are going for Amazon as a cloud provider, if you choose to have a different implementation partner, you might get offered this one in a different model itself. If you want to go for OpenStack, that type of services which your Rackspace and all offers, you might have a different type of configuration and the names of the services. Amazon specifically calls these as these three distinctive parameters. EC2 is their hardware part. Amazon S3 is the place where you will be storing the data. As it says that it can monitor your Hadoop jobs, all that is pre-built, as well as any of the input and output. It can take it from your Amazon S3, and you actually sign up for these individual services. When you create an Amazon cloud account, you sign up for these individual services, and accordingly you pay for it. So it's a pay per use model, and as many services as you use, you accordingly pay for it, and that's how the billing and all that things work out. A high level architecture diagram for your Amazon Elastic MapReduce looks something like this. You as a host, as it says, will interact with a web service type of thing, and it's strictly distributed in the sense it's a web-based interaction that is happening. You'll see in later discussion how there are plugins available at your individual browser level by which you can interact and all. So behind the scene, so Elastic MapReduce in turn is integrated with Amazon S3, which you use to push the data. So basically, again, first thing that you will do in a typical interaction is you will push the input data which you want to process on S3, Amazon S3. You will then push your jobs, which is your MapReduce logic, on your Elastic MapReduce part there. And when you configure the job, you also look for or ask for the capacity that I need 3 instances and all that thing. So that's where it's getting allocated here. You can see that you push the content, all these servers, and the individually installed Hadoop on those servers is abstracted from you. You just have to ask for the instances and the configuration. Amazon makes sure that you get machines which has that things pre-built or installed. Some of the simple things that you will do when you go for a Amazon cloud-based setup, you'll have to sign up. First, create an Amazon account, do a sign up, and it does shares you Amazon specific key pairs. That is something that you will have to configure. But that's a generic thing that you will have to do for using any Amazon Web Service. That's not specific to your Elastic MapReduce. Whenever you want to use Amazon Web Service, you will sign up for it. You will get the access keys which you have to configure in your application or provide whenever you are trying to use the Amazon cloud infrastructure. This is how it will be like for the totally newcomers, those who haven't ever accessed Amazon cloud. You just go there on the aws.amazon.com, create a Amazon Web Service account, and then once you create an account, it will prompt you, or it will show you the list of services that are available, and you choose the individual services which you want to leverage, and accordingly you will sign up for them. It will tell you the pricing and all as to how that is working out. So all that low level things will be provided by Amazon once you sign up for that. If you want to use the Hadoop specific capability, you will have to sign up for, as we talked about, Amazon MapReduce, Elastic MapReduce, because that's where you will have your jobs and all this configured. You also have to sign up for Amazon EC2. Elastic EC2 thing is something which will be, I'll say, a compulsion itself. If you want to sign up for Amazon MapReduce, it will anyway prompt you to sign up for EC2 as well as S3, because those are integrated component. EC2 is basically your capacity, wherein you will look for or demand specific servers of specific configuration, this much RAM, this much CPU or hard disk and all. And S3 is basically your storage part. The screen just gives you the way you can get your credentials. You will get a specific pair of secure keys that you have to store so that you can access it and the billing is done based on the keys itself, so you can use it in as many applications as possible. That's a unique way for Amazon Web Services to identify your client calls. So when you want to then use the actual Amazon Web Service model, after you have done the initial sign up, credentials and all, you log into Amazon Management Console, and that's where you will see individual services available. This is how will be the big picture of how a Amazon Management Console looks like. It will, on the top you will see the tabs, all the things which you have signed up for. And once you click on those individual tasks, like if you click on the left hand side, you can see if you have click on the instances, it will give you the number of instances that are currently allocated to you. It will also prompt you to get the new capacity, and when you choose an instance, it will give you the configuration of what type of you want to choose, small, medium or large distribution. It does shows the geographies or the data centers where it is trying to give you that capacity from. Most of the time, depending upon your IP address or the geography from which you are calling, it tries to give you a data center which is close by, and hence you will see the rates also. But you may choose that you might be like in North American territory and you want to choose your data center in Australia. So by default it will give you a data center offering in North America, but if you want to choose the data or want to store it in a different data center, you will have to choose that particular data center, and accordingly it will change the rate. So it's not a uniform storage charge, and that's something which will be visible to you. So those were like the initial configuration, type settings and all that part. Assuming that you have signed up for these services and you have Amazon MapReduce, Amazon EC2 and Amazon S3 configured to your account, when it comes to actual job execution, you will start configuring your jobs. There are multiple ways by which you can configure your MapReduce jobs. You can directly use the management console and upload your jobs there. So it will prompt you and it will directly take your jar files. Since it's a very matured model, Amazon has been in this industry, at least the Amazon Web Services has been from around 2006. So they have been the pioneer in cloud computing, and even for MapReduce or offering Hadoop in a distributed cloud architecture, they were the first one to come up with that type of distributed hardware and storage based model. So a lot of different integration comes in. You have different plugins for Mozilla and those type of browsers by which you can directly install those add-ons and you can push your data. Ruby and all, there are different clients by which you can configure a Ruby based client as well. Not only are those things like your management console as well as command line things, Amazon also gives you the capability to programmatically connect with it. So you can write a typical Java code and connect to Amazon cloud and distribute your jobs there. You will have to install Amazon JDK. If you go on, sorry, it's called an SDK. If you go on Amazon site, Amazon gives you that detail of installing the SDK on your system. It fixes up or it gets installed as an add-on plugin in your Eclipse for Java based folks itself, but it has different SDK for C++ guys, Python people and other things also. Ruby SDK is also there. So any programming model that you are using, you can install that standard development kit, and then you can use the programming mechanism. It's just that when you do through programming, every time you'll have to configure your access keys and account modifier, and it will be basically your application which will log in on your behalf, push the data as well as the job state files, and execute. Some of the capabilities which Amazon MapReduce offers from a jobs perspective, MapReduce job perspective, it gives you the streaming jobs option. Custom jars can be given. Cascading is another technology. Try to just look into and explore that. Pig and Hive is also available to you there. We'll see that all these options will be given to you in a Dropbox type of manner. It has some pre-built configurations also available, or some jobs are available, your word count and all that thing, but you can always push your own logic and execute the same. So custom jar is that certain things. If you have written your jobs in Python and all, you will use the streaming API to provide. So in that sense, Amazon MapReduce is not any specific technology to learn like Pig or Hive or HBase in a distributed Hadoop architecture. It's just a cloud-based offering. So for startups and small volume companies, it makes sense for them to use and get matured in a cloud-based model rather than worrying about all the low-level nitty-gritties and configuration level details and managing that whole stuff. But bigger organizations might have a mix of both. If they want to do some sort of a POC just to look into the capabilities, they might go for a cloud-based offering, and that's when you can give Amazon MapReduce as a viable option. And once you are done with your POC, you see the value, then you start making an actual investment in a Hadoop-based infrastructure and all. And as I was talking about, that you have for interacting with these different components, you have these different services or APIs available. S3 is there, Foxy Proxy is again a Mozilla-based add-on which gives you the capability to upload your files through the Mozilla browser and all. From a job configuration perspective, these are some of the things which we need to keep in mind. The job flow, that is something which Amazon requests you to create. Those will be a series of steps which a job will constitute. So in a job flow, you will basically configure the name of the job, the files that you want to give it, the hardware that you want to use to execute the job. Basically a wizard based flow. It will also specify some initial bootstrapping action in the sense that how you want it to configure and any specific thing that you want to do, as well as any other capability like debug and all. And I remember all of this comes with a cost. So the more fine-tune you go, the more cost you will have to pay. But the flexibility is there that if you want, you can always check that out and do that level of analysis and all. So that job flow which you will submit, it will run on your Amazon EC2 infrastructure, because EC2 is what constituting all your actual hardware. It will try to access the files which you have. It will store all the log files on your S3. That's where when you sign up for Amazon MapReduce, it will sign up for you on EC2 and S3 as well, because they are related to that. You can create different types of job flows. Batch job flows which execute later. You just don't want it to execute just in time. If you want to schedule it, you can do that. Interactive job flows as well as running job flows. So it's a pretty stable and matured model and gives you a good amount of option as to how you want to execute the individual job MapReduce jobs. These are just some low-level things which it's talking about the individual job flow steps. You can configure or specify the jar files that needs to be run on the master node. And it will have the different steps that should be executed sequentially. As you can see that if there is a failure in terms of execution and all, you will get a non-zero result, and it will show you the log files where you can go and take a look what went wrong and configure the same. So in that particular model, it is exactly the same which you have experience on a quasi-cluster installation on a virtual machine. When it's going on, you can take a certain action. If it sees that after a long time also you don't have results coming in, you can terminate and do certain activities around that level. Bootstrapping action, as we talked about that before, it executes a job. It has got all the jar files and the data, but it still tries to get or gives you options to configure like what type of low level detail that you want in terms of the memory on each of the boxes, some individual configurations and all, any additional hardware or software that you want to install, anything which you want to do at a site config level, HDFS site hyphen or your map red site. So by default it will take the standard default setting for job conf, but you can always override it at this level. You can provide your own MapRed and HDFS site files which will be followed for all the cluster members. You can change the swap memory, virtual memory, disk IOs and all that thing also. But as I said that as you make configurations, the initial cost or the execution of a job overall cost gets increased. So that's something you can keep a monitor on that. It's a pay-per-use model, so any extra thing that you do or even the basic things, you will have to pay a standard price. If you go in more low-level details, you pay more price for this. That's the only catch in it. Else, from a capability perspective, it gives almost everything which you get when you do a in-house implementation of a Hadoop cluster. You can see that it tells you some more details and all of this bootstrapping action and all. Soon you will see that it will be coming in a Visual Wizard based manner. It will ask that detail. Let's talk about that you can download certain additional software that needs to be there. You can even use distributed cache to specify the data initially itself, those jar files or native files which you want all your map and radius to use later on. These are just some high number that when a non-zero result comes in, it indicates a failure, and you can configure it that what is your failure percent or what percentage you mark as a failure. If 10% of the overall slave nodes are returning a negative output, then you mark it. So that percentage things and all can be controlled. By default, it has some predefined bootstrap actions as well available. So predefined things, it will have a default configuration for Hadoop on all those EC2 boxes which has been assigned to you, but you can always override it. Absolutely, Mr. Kumar. In fact, the other things that you need to check on the latest model. You might get multiple different versions of Hadoop configured, so you do have that capability available there. So you might have to check it. When you go for specific vendors like Cloudera, as far as I remember, offering is also there, but that's something you might have to check the default versions and what versions of HBase, Hive as well as Pig and all is getting used. So it has a default model. As you can see, the predefined bootstrapping models are some default configurations are there, and then you can always override it when you specify the settings. As we talked about the Hadoop UI, that thing is available using your different browser plugins and all. And as we talked about that, this individual EC2, Amazon S3 and all is available through different tabs. You just choose them and accordingly configure the same. And you also have support available for Hive, Pig and cascading. And even if you don't see them, you can always take a raw EC2 Amazon machine. They call it as AMRs, Amazon machines, and AMI, yep, so Amazon machine instance, and then you can install it. So it will be just like the virtual machines that you have. You will log in into that machine, you will have access to internet and all, just download and install it. That's something which will always be there. If you specifically use Amazon MapReduce EMR, it just makes sure that Hadoop is already pre-configured on those hardware which you are requesting in. This is visually how you will be seeing when you configure the jobs. You will upload the data to Amazon S3 bucket. You will then create a MapReduce job. You can use the default or you can push your own code, and then your final data or the output also gets stored at your Amazon in your Amazon S3 bucket itself. So bucket is that terminology which uses to represent your input and output structures. And as we talked about, this all can be executed. Either you can log in into Amazon Management Console or use command line, as well as any programming APIs. All of that are provided to interact. This is how your job step starts. Initially it will just ask you anytime you have to execute a particular MapReduce job, it will ask you to create job flow. This is the actual screenshot of how the UI looks like. You provide a job name, and then either you can run your own application, that's where you specify your own programs. It tells you the distinct, or you choose a sample application. These are some things that are available. A word count or a simple Apache log report analyzer and all. They have given you some of these individual. Word count streaming also is there available, Python scripts and all that we saw by writing it from scratch. So you can test it there itself. You choose either of it. If you have your own jobs to push, just choose run your own application, and you can specify the jar file location. Once you go further, it will try to get the details of your scripts, their input location, first the name of the script itself, the input location, output location, and any extra argument that you want to give while you want to execute. You can also you can see that Pig is a very strongly supported feature which your Amazon MapReduce gives. So either you can execute or write a Pig script, as we have seen that when we went through Pig, that you can write your set of Pig commands in a script and push it there, or you can make it interactive also, which will basically open a grunt shell when it starts, and then you type your command and accordingly it will execute the same. It's just that herein the data will be available on your Amazon S3, and that is something which will try to fetch and do that particular thing. So it tries to mimic almost all the behavior that you see in a typical virtual machine based interaction. This is the configuration part, wherein it actually asks that, okay, previously you gave the job details and all. It is now asking you how many instances that you want to utilize for this, the type of instances, as we talked about, small, medium, large, and accordingly it will give you the choices, and Amazon EC2 key pairs and all. So that's something which you'll have to provide. Just make sure that those are the initial key pairs that you create for executing your jobs. You can enable debugging, and it will store your debug related log files at a specific S3 location. But again, all of this will be costing you, so just make sure that whenever you are doing, you evaluate the pricing and then use that. But at low level, you can always get these things configured. As you can see that if you want to use Hadoop debugging, you have to sign up for additional service, which is Amazon SimpleDB. So Amazon DynamoDB is a NoSQL database which they offer, but SimpleDB is again something which they would like to store your data, and also it will suggest wherever it needs you to sign up for some other service. You can see that in the bootstrapping model there is a default one which it will always take, but you do see an option wherein it says configure your bootstrap action, and when you click on it, it will start showing you the low level details of it. And as we talked about, you can change the default files, you can push your own configurations which needs to be followed while executing the job. And that's it. This is something where it will take and it will give you a review of all the things that you have configured. It in this one it tells you that this is the place where it's going to pick up the big file to do the analysis you basically wants to do. I think in this one you are trying to do Apache log analysis. So that is a pre-built program that is built in. It tells you that this is the input, output, job name. The instances are 2, they are small capacity, and you can look into what it means by small, medium and large. It just distinguishes based on the RAM and hard disk and processing that is available. It will not show your key value, key pairs for security reasons, but you do have to provide it earlier. Debugging is no, and you don't have, in this case you haven't provided anything specific at a bootstrapping action level. So once you do that, finally it will give you the command to create a job flow. Those were all the initial details that it created. When you create a job flow, it will just execute it. You will see that job execution in progress. You can see here that the status shows starting, and accordingly if you refresh, it will show you the progress, typical to the way your MapReduce used to show you percentage of map and reduce completion. And once it is done, it will specify you the location of the input and the output file. So those all details will be available. Once it gets completed, it will give you the access to the output as well as the logs file, and you can get that particular details going in. This is how it will be giving you the access on the output folders, inputs, and you can then analyze it accordingly. If it has produced anything, you will anyway be able to see that. As I mentioned, that there are a lot of default plugins which are available, which you can, if you don't want to use the management console, you can use plugins like your Foxy Proxy, and all these are all add-ons which you can install on Mozilla that enables you to look into the progress of your MapReduce jobs, push data on S3 through your browser, local browser itself. You don't have to log in into Amazon Web Service Management Console and then do that. S3 Fox is another such plugin which you can download and have it enabled. These are some suggestions when you are going for a Amazon type of hosting infrastructure. As it says that it's great for bootstrapping large cluster and very cost effective if you need once in a while, because you don't have to buy anything and you just like use and throw type of thing, that you do one-time benchmarking anytime when you have to go for a POC type of concept to your business and show them the value for Hadoop. You might as well choose that and do a one-time configuration, pay that, and that's it. You can then later on take a business decision. You don't have to live with the infrastructure. Again, as it says that you don't have to worry about individual configurations of Hadoop, management, hardware, monitoring. All of them is Amazon's responsibility. As I said, that Amazon AMIs are the individual instance unit in Amazon Web Service. Stands for Amazon Machine Instance is what it will be there. I think that you will be seeing that since Amazon is taking care of all that Hadoop installation and all, at least as far as what they have educated, they don't keep typically a secondary node. They take the responsibility of any name node, data node, and that type of alias. So again, the key part here is that none of the HDFS related complexity is something you will have to know. You have a logic, you have a data, you just push it and see the value. If you distribute it across Hadoop machines, how much value you will get in terms of processing and all. So that's where it comes in. Since it's all web based or web services based itself, so network and all other things is a key thing, and more so that your IO things, because if you're pushing your data from your local machine into Amazon hosting, you will have to consider the network IO impact and all. That could be I'll say a potential or have a significant impact on the overall performance of the things that are happening. Amazon does gives you, if you enable monitoring and metrics, excuse me, it will give you the capabilities to monitor your jobs and do not just see over a period how your individual clusters and on are running, individual members and the performance and all those things. You can get some good graphs around this. As I said, that there are a lot of potential areas wherein you use this type of elastic MapReduce. You don't have to pay anything for the setup and all that skill set. You don't have to look for networking guys or admins and Unix folks. So a lot of these analysis like advertising analysis, warehousing, genome projects, financial simulations, indexing, data mining, you can do it there. All you need is a data and the logic. You don't have to go through the pain of configuring all of that on your own. So that's something which your elastic MapReduce can help you out. So this is where we close our interaction or topic on the Amazon Elastic MapReduce offering. So this is an actual Amazon Cloud account that we have. You can see that once you click on it, if you like go into, you have to sign up for Amazon related details, and that's when you go into that particular thing. So once you log in into it, it will show you the account number, output details, and these are the different services which currently I am signed up for. So, and you can choose anything else. Amazon Cloud offering is a very versatile offering, so you have a lot of other details that can be added up. So Amazon Simple, sorry for that, you have Amazon Elastic MapReduce, Amazon Simple Service Storage, and Amazon EC2. Default, there are other things which also are there, but for Hadoop thing you will need that particular part itself, Elastic MapReduce, S3, and your EC2. You go into your Amazon EC, Amazon MapReduce, it just gives you some individual documentation here itself. You can also directly go to Amazon Management Console. Other things related like account activity, these are all for your management thing itself. You can think I'll be sharing with you some material wherein you can get it thing. Amazon Management Console. Okay, I'm sure you, why is it asking? I think let's do for it. Yep, this is where it shows you the different services, the management console and all that is available. It shows the different services which I am currently signed up for. Go to the EC2 part. this is what it shows that currently I don't have any running instances, nothing has been set up. So this is where uh, you will have to add. Once you put a launch instance, it will, if you click on it, because it will go or take you through a individual wizard based model wherein you can choose individual things, whether you want a Red Hat box or what type of box that you need. And also again, this is something which you guys can go through it. You're not trying to learn here Amazon Web Services, but EC2, S3 and all these things needs to be configured. So instances, you can do it once you go through that part. Let's try to do the Maris thing. You can see that this is where it asks you to choose a simple job related stuff. You create a new job. It's exactly the same stuff that we saw during the configuration. So there are different distributions as you guys were pointing out. MapR is what it has the tie-up with, but Amazon, it keeps changing, so you will have to just, depending upon when you are using it, it will show you the latest one that it supports. So I can put it here, my reduced job. In your role application you can choose, as well as if you click on the sample application, it shows you the list of sample applications. Word count, streaming, Hive applications, all of that it chooses. So let's, for example, choose the Hadoop count streaming example. It tells you that this is the Python based example which it will try to use. Click on continue. Right now it's just trying to show us the details of the input and all other things. This is where it is showing the S3 location where it will try to put the detail. This you can change. The bucket and all, you can specify your own bucket. Bucket is basically a folder structure which it uses to put the data on your S3, which is the storage service. Do a continue. You can see here it gives you the choice of choosing the individual instances type. These are the different definitions that it has. You can get a more low level understanding of each of it, but you can have all these choices. When it says high, clustered, quad core, what type of configurations that you need, you can do that test run. Number of instances you want to run, that it what says that these EC2 instances run Hadoop task and store data using HDFS. So you can choose the capacity and the individual types. The first one that you choose are for your individual master nodes configuration. So one is for your master jobs, Hadoop task to core and task nodes and monitor their things. The different choices that you have. Go to continue. It will give you the Amazon EC2 thing itself. You can create individual key value pairs. That something is a different API which you create the key values thing. But you can also proceed it, because if you are just one user, you can do that. But suppose you have made a I'll say a company level account, so you will create different key values pair for different people to use different keys and then execute. Want to specify any logging option, enable debugging, all of that, as we said, that it's all visible to you as it's something which is currently available here. Click on continue. This is where it gives you the option of either taking all the default and do the job, or you can click on configure Bootstrap and you can actually configure all the low level details. You can see if you want to configure Hadoop, you can just have to specify it, the individual settings. You can use those individual settings. These are things which we know we used to configure in our htfs-site.xml as well as the MapRed. You just have to provide that detail. We'll be able to take that part. Any installations and other things you can put here. All those memory specific to your services. You can see that these are the option, name node and all. Accordingly you can provide it for data node, all those things. Again, so pretty much everything that you can do when you have your own cluster is available here. You just have to provide it in a different manner. And once you start using it, at least the capabilities, once it's known to you, the Hadoop capabilities, configuring them and specifying in an elastic MapReduce will not be very difficult. But yeah, that's something for you to sign up and explore it out. As we said, that the more complex sections you go, the more charges and all of that it will have. It's a pay-per-use model, so you configure accordingly any specific thing that you want to do. So all these options are available by default. Also, if you put in if you do a continue, this is where it will give you a snapshot of all that is available, things that you have chosen. This is a default program which we are putting in, and at your MapReduce level you have this aggregate perks function which basically will combine all that part itself. But this is just a snapshot of the settings. You can change it. Once you click on create job flow, it will create the job and it will execute it, and depending upon the type of capacity that you are using as well as the configurations that you have for each of those EC2 boxes, it will take the time. And as we saw, you can browse around those directories to take a look at the individual data and the output file itself. So I'll just cancel it here, but I'll request you guys to sign up your own box and then try to do that configuration. Management console and all is what something it will continue to show you that particular detail with. If you click on the S3, so EC2 is where your hardware part comes in. This is where once you start using S3, it will create, or it will give you detail to create individual buckets and all that particular part, and that's where you store that detail. So try to utilize this particular configuration of S3, Elastic MapReduce and EC2, and you will be able to utilize and execute these services. Once you log in, you will, depending upon the services you are signed up for, it will show you the different details. As I talked about, that Amazon Web Service model is very elaborate. Later on you can configure or add more details to it. Different components and all will start coming in. So this is where we complete our Amazon cloud based interaction thing, and at least you guys should have a high level overview and the capability run. So take this knowledge and try to build up in your business case when you are doing any proof of concept or anything like that. It always helps to have a cloud based understanding also these days, given the penetration of cloud that we have in the real-time technologies. So this is where we close our Amazon MapReduce and web services session for this. Thank you for your participation.